Whenever you're ready. He's sitting there yelling.
Yeah. Oh, stop on. Wait. Are we gonna play an entire day of you fucking you prick?
No, welcome to the show, Hank. Today we have with us somebody that Dennis and I have both been really looking forward to getting to talk to. We have Anthony Neal Smith joining us on the show today. For those of you who may know or may not know, he is the author of such books as Plots with Guns, Psychosomatic, Hogdoggin, which I wanted to talk to you about.
No, because that's part of a trilogy.
Warriors.
No, Hogdoggin is part of a trilogy. It's part of the Billy Lafayette trilogy. If you don't know the whole fucking thing, don't talk about Hogdoggin. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way.
All right, see, that's why you should have introduced him, asshole.
Actually, it's Billy Lafitte, so don't even talk about him if you can't pronounce his fucking name, right? So
Lafitte? I'm sorry.
Lafitte.
For fucking, I mean, that's what you get for drinking habits. So whatever.
Yeah, cheers.
I blame Craig for leaving. See this? I don't know if everyone can see this. Old school moonshine.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there you go. Left it at the house. Guess what I'm drinking? Yeah. Anyway. That's how I gotta do it.
But
anyway,
welcome to the show, Anthony. We.
Sorry. I made it a little strong.
I am drinking a combination of boxed Pinot Noir and boxed Zinfandel. So
that's all right.
Classy shit.
So you have you were drinking all the class tonight.
I'm drinking the piss out of this class.
All right. So thank you for coming on. I really personally appreciate you coming on. I've read hold on. Let me pull it up because in my head I can't remember everything under the planet. I've read Yellow Medicine, Hogdoggin, and pretty much the whole Billy, as I also automatically go bad. I always say Lafayette because that's just how I pronounce it. Because
however you want, yeah.
Because I'm from Indiana, Lafayette automatically comes to my head.
Well, I will tell you this though. The reason it's Lafitte is because I stole it from Jean Lafitte, who's a famous pirate from around New Orleans. So I have that pirate imagery. But Lafitte, Lafayette, Smith, who cares? You know?
Yeah, well, I just like I said, I've read Hogdoggin, The Baddest Ass, Yellow Medicine. Right now, I'm on All the Young Warriors, which is a fantastic novel. Just to watch like the dichotomy between the the Somalians who go back to Africa compared to the people who are still stuck in the U.S. Amazing. I'm only about like a third to halfway through. Amazing novel. Amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Travis and Craig, if you guys get like, you know, Travis and I like kind of jump back and forth between novels where we tell each other to read. All the Young Warriors, Travis, fucking, you will love it. Just like watching these guys. Like I won't give any names away or anything, but there's this young Somalian kid who goes back to Somalia to see what's everything going on, and then how his father and a American police officer deal with the repercussions of his actions. Amazing, just amazing story, because it really makes you go, you know, that, I mean, it's really a distinct possibility that this type of stuff actually could happen. You know,
it did.
It could. I don't. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, was this? It's based in like just outside of Minnesota, like Minneapolis, right? Like right outside of Minnesota.
Yeah, Minneapolis. Actually, over the past several years, we've had some Somali American kids. These guys that were recruited by some imams and some other, you know, loyalists to the, I think it's Al-Shabaab terrorist group, to fly back over, join this terrorist group, and you know, try to take over Somalia. And it's been just nasty. So we had about 20 of these kids. They actually just disappeared, and then we found out they actually went over to the homeland.
Wow.
And some of them, they were born in America. So,
well, and that's what I loved about the story. Like I said, I haven't read the full story yet, and I'm working on it because, like I said, the Lafitte Steel story was the first set I read, which pulled me into everything else. Like I said, I last time I talked to you just privately, I own about 5 of your books. I have Worm. I haven't read that yet, but I read the trilogy of Billy Lafitte, and then I'm working on All the Young Warriors right now. So, which are fantastic stories. And I got pulled in by reading a bunch of other noirs, graphic noirs. Ryan Sales and who's another one? I'm sure Travis could probably help me, or not, because Travis is a prick.
I think he quit for a while, it looked like.
The graphic novels?
No, not graphic novels. Victor Gischler was another one to pull me into your stories. I had to think about it for a second. Victor Gischler was another one to pull me into your stories or your novels. So I have this. I've been really pulled into this whole gangster or violent noir series, and most of my life has been based around fantasy and classic, like R.A. Salvatore and those type of novels, like fantasy, old school stories like I grew up on as a kid, D&D type novels. Mm-hmm. I've kind of left all those. I went to, it literally is just a crazy progression. I went through like old fantasy to new urban fiction to you guys, and it's like, and it literally was this crazy jump because I know Gischler wrote Three on a Light was just kind of like, it was almost like a urban fantasy / noir gangster novel, and then from there I jumped over to you and a couple other people, and it was just fantastic because I watch you guys. The way you guys write stories is just unbelievable because like Billy Lafitte is I really want to say he's just a poor bastard. The guy just got caught in the worst possible situation and made the best out of it, and I love him for that. Is that he got caught in a situation, did not win at all, and then still was able to stand above and like, fuck it, that's what I'm gonna do, and this is who I am. I like like this could be me because I lived that crazy ass lifestyle for long parts of my life. It was just fantastic. Like awesome novels. I know. Are you gonna actually happen to do anything more from him? Because the last story kind of left it open because he just vanished.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that it's like he's gone. Yes. That type of thing.
I'm halfway through the next Billy Lafitte novel, and I do have a fifth in mind. So honestly, if I can squeeze money out of this guy for years and years to come, I'm gonna do it. So.
You don't know how happy that makes me. I love this guy. He's like the antithesis of an anti-hero. I mean, this guy is like not a bad guy, but he's been put in so many bad situations. He has no other way to survive but just be a hardcore type. Like, I got to do what I got to do to make it. It's just fantastic.
Oh yeah. He the whole point of this character was trying to write someone who would come up to you in a bar and tell you stories, and who was fascinating, and also the last person in the world you would ever want to talk to. I just wanted this unsympathetic character that you still rooted for, which would make you question your own loyalties. Why would you want this guy to succeed when he's this horrible of a person? And it kind of came from watching The Shield, which I love, one of my favorite TV shows.
Oh, fantastic show.
Yeah. Vic Mackey, he was great, and he was bad, but they had to give him the wife and the kids as this sort of thing to show us, yeah, but you can still root for him because he has a wife and a kids, and there's a reason he's doing this. And I said, well, what if you get rid of the wife and kids, and what sort of person do you have? Can you still root for him? And it seems like the answer is yes. So
No, like I said, if you go through the books and you watch how Billy runs, it's he got caught in some of the worst circumstances possible. I mean, it is the antithesis of bad luck. Like, he was not a bad guy from the beginning. He was never a bad guy through all the books. He just got caught in these really bad situations and did the best he could to get through them. And then, though everyone else thought he was just this horrible individual, he's like, I still have these standards and ways I live, and I refuse to give up these ways. And then you're behind him the whole way going, go for it, man. Go for it. I root for him in every book. It's fantastic. Was it Yellow Medicine is the first one?
yeah.
Hog? It goes Yellow Medicine.
Hog,
yeah, and then
the baddest ass.
Yeah, the baddest ass when he's in prison, and that novel is fantastic. The baddest ass is one of the. I'm telling you, Travis. Get these 3 books. You will agree with me 1,000% on how you love this guy. You cannot not love this guy.
Well, I wasn't aware.
50,000 more people like you, and then I would be happy.
Oh, dude, I am so behind you because I love those anti-hero, like, just, the guys who are like there's no reason why you should love him, but
Exactly.
still do. And I'm like, I am so like that just meets my character and the way I've lived my life. I'm like, I'm behind you, brother. Any given point in time, that could have been me. That could have been me. And so I watch him go
You
through.
are a sorry bastard, aren't you? That is some.
What I've done in my life would have been like I could have made movies out of what shit I've done in my life. So but I love this guy.
I wasn't aware that Hogdoggin was part of a trilogy.
Oh, it's a trilogy. Oh my God!
Part of the series.
Part of a series, not a trilogy, but right now it's a trilogy. He hasn't finished the 4th one.
Dennis,
but
Dennis,
no, shut up. Shut your face.
No, other people and the guests need to speak now. Because I follow on Twitter. I remember who it was that was having the conversation. Hogdoggin was going to be. Is that going to be made into a movie?
I signed a contract for an option with some local people in Minneapolis. This guy named Paul von Stotzel. If you look him up, he's done some really cool stuff. And he, this was like nearly 2 years ago. We signed this option because he really wanted to make it. But they've got to raise the money, and we'll see. We'll see if they make it. But if anybody, if he was to make it, I'd be happy because he is interesting. And there's a trailer out there he made to try to raise some money. So if you look up the Hogdoggin trailer, you can get an idea of, what sort of vision he has.
Well, let me ask, do you feel like you should go back and at least do Yellow Medicine first, or do you feel like Hogdoggin can kind of go off on its own?
In one way, I want people to read the whole series, but then when I was writing Hogdoggin at the time, I hadn't sold Yellow Medicine yet, and I was thinking, can this book stand on its own? And, now that both of them were published, then I don't think that anymore. It's like, each Lafitte book is a Lafitte book. But Hogdoggin does, I think, have a way to stand on its own. And also, I just had to go with the ones they were willing to pay me for. If they didn't want to give me Yellow Medicine, they didn't want to put down any money for Yellow Medicine, fuck them, I don't care. Then he wanted Hogdoggin, and I said, all right. And so I'm still waiting to see what he does with it.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, because reading Hogdoggin, the fact that he comes out of nowhere, out of like this biker gang, and you don't quite know, like, I can see how like you could make a movie out of the fact that you know what his background was, and all of a sudden this guy's coming out to help all certain people, and people are killing people through like bad circumstance and retribution, and it's like, whoa, wait, what happened? admittedly, I could see how Hot Doggin would work as a standalone film, but then you could do like a prequel and a sequel on either end if you wanted to.
Oh yeah, so I'm the author. I just want the money. They can do whatever the fuck they want with the film if they pay me. I will say this: Yellow Medicine. At the end of Yellow Medicine, while I was writing it, it was actually a very tough book to write. I didn't think it was going quite as well as it ended up seeming that it did for everybody. But I kind of had this idea, like I would leave this open ending so that, it can go either way. This is either the end of Billy Lafitte or it's not. And so it took Hogdoggin, because we've been trying to sell Yellow Medicine for quite a while before I started Hogdoggin, just the image, the idea in my mind of Lafitte on a motorcycle made me say I can write the whole book. And that was it, because I didn't know. So.
What was? Oh my God! Hold on a second. I don't want to do you injustice. Go ahead, Travis. Go ahead.
You given some how you. Sorry, I'm trying to form the question as I'm asking it. You've given some idea of how Billy Lafitte was created. How he was named.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things to do every time that we have an author on, or any of our guests really, because they've all been artists in their own way. What is your process? What do you do when you sit down? Do you meet a character in your imagination and say this character's story needs to be told, or do you just sit down and start writing stream of consciousness? What is your process when you go to sit down and write a book?
I think the thoughts come first. For me, it's usually an image of a character doing something, and because character is more important than story for me. I want to care about the character more than the plot. So I see usually an image of a character, and then if the story just keeps bugging me or kind of keeps hitting me in the right spot, then I keep pushing forward. I start doing some research. Like I had some characters, just for example, I had some characters for a book I was writing. It was going to be set in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is near here, and just about some blue-collar guys that start knocking over little penny-ante casinos that are storefront casinos they have all over Sioux Falls, which are sad places, but it's just really it's interesting to me. And it wasn't coming together. I'd written a couple of chapters, but I knew the characters. And finally, when I started getting interested, thanks to some comments from my mother-in-law, that they live up near North Dakota, and she was talking about the Williston oil boom. And that's where in western North Dakota, they've got just a shit ton of oil coming out of the ground with all this fracking, and men are just invading this place. And the story was interesting, so I did a bunch of not interviews, but I did a bunch of research, watched a lot of videos, and I realized that the guys from Sioux Falls that I've been thinking about writing about really need to be in this book about North Dakota. And so that's what happened, is the personalities ended up being these North Dakota oil workers. So stuff like that happens, where you have 2 or 3 ideas that are competing for space in your head, and usually the one with the most momentum wins out, but it's got to feel right,
Have you ever sat down with a character that was just really subtle, and didn't? Well, just kind of sat in the back and didn't really pull at your mind much, and then when you sat down, that character suddenly exploded onto the page.
I was going to ask a completely cross section, because Agent Rome seems like that kind of character, but it's Steel God compared to, because as you're talking about Hog Dogging earlier, Steel God was this ancillary character who's really kind of opened up everything that you were going to kind of hoping for. I don't know if again.
Actually, I get the question now. Talking about Rome, Agent Rome. Originally, first part of the book of Yellow Medicine, I have him sort of as a minor character that shows up to do his function at the time, and I had an image in my head of this guy, and then he ends up becoming, he's like an undercover FBI guy. Sorry, I ruined it for you. He becomes a big part of Yellow Medicine at a certain point. Although I will say that originally the way I'd written it, you don't find out that till later, but because of some shifting we did, the first chapter of the book now tells you who Agent Rome is, kind of, full
and that's what I loved about Agent Rome is watching him through the 3 books you've written so far. Watch him go from this guy who was really trying to, with Lafitte, not try to help Lafitte to really go against Lafitte through the whole, the next 2 books. I mean, Rome was this whole character who was, there's these things going on. I'm trying to do my best not to give away the stories. Watch Rome to tell Lafitte, these things are going on, and then watch Lafitte go this kind of not bad, but go to pseudo bad, and then Rome turn against him, and then the last 2 books, watch Rome really try to I'm trying to think I don't want to say castrate. I'm trying to think of a good term. Put him on a cross. I mean, really
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, he tears into him, but he has no way to really get into him. And that's what I loved about the books is that I'm watching these characters crisscross, and it's this whole dichotomy of weird, of bizarre circumstance and opposition, where at any given point in time, one character jumps across one line where you wouldn't see one really cross that line, but at that point in time, all of a sudden you have no choice either. It's either going to go, either you stay on your line, or to get this other character, you have to cross this line. And it's nobody is, and what I love about the books is that nobody's a really bad person. No one's
that's a good point.
No one's really a bad guy. It's just what happens can change anybody's. I'm sorry.
Dennis.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I have no problem with the guy just jizzing all over me with praise for a half hour. So.
No, I love his books, and Travis will give me this fact because Stephen Blackmore is all I got to say to Travis.
Yeah,
Blackmore.
At least I let him talk.
Let me say this.
Yes. I'm sorry,
Anthony. Because it's fine. It's your show. Do whatever you want. But Agent Rome became this sort of bad guy, but he was also an authority figure. He wasn't the real bad guy of Yellow Medicine. But every time I'd give this out to a few friends of mine, including Victor Gischler and Sean Doolittle, who read it before we sent it in to agents and editors, and they both said, "Why didn't Billy kill Rome at the end? He should have killed him." And it stunned the hell out of me. I said, Agent Rome was just an FBI agent doing his job. I don't see, even though he was doing some awful things, he was kind of thought he was doing the right thing. I don't see why they would have thought he needed to die. But they said that really disappointed them that he didn't die. And so that immediately, as soon as I started realizing I was going to do a second book, the whole point was Rome is a person interests me, and I absolutely want to show those people who thought he should die that there's a reason he shouldn't, that this was a guy doing his job, he had his own life, he had a full life, and Billy Lafitte just pretty much stepped in and stomped all over, a life that didn't have anything to do with Billy Lafitte. So
no, I'm not gonna lie, I agree with you, because watching Billy Lafitte go through his entire struggle, and then watching Rome, it wasn't like he was a bad guy. It was just the guy trying to do his job, and honestly thinking that Lafitte was a bad person,
Yeah.
and trying to do his best to like, I'm going to make this guy. I'm going to convict this guy for whatever he's did in his past. Even though if it wasn't really, it was like just victim circumstance. It was this whole thing and this dichotomy of good and bad and left and right. And it was just a beautiful, like, dance. And just watching it over and over again. And, like, that's why I've read your books repeatedly. And I'm just like,
Wow.
whoa. No, I've read the. I'm not gonna say trilogy because I know you're gonna keep going, but I've read your 3 books like twice, 4 times now.
Where's that I've read them like that?
No, I just the way you wrote it. I sound like a fanboy. It's horrible, but
I need fanboys, so it's fine.
no, it's just the Billy Lafitte is he's an anti-hero, and I completely like agree with whatever he did to get what he's going on for, and I loved it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir.
I personally haven't been able to jump into your books yet. I have on the list that need to be read. I bought a whole bunch of books before I bought my house because I knew that I wasn't going to get to spend money because my wife would kill me. And I actually found Dennis didn't share your work with me until recently, but through Stephen Blackmore and
so what? I'm selfish. I love the guy's work. It's all for me.
But through reading Stephen Blackmore's books and getting started on Victor Gischler's books, I've more and more like urban fantasy fiction is a lot like noir fiction to me, or detective fiction. And from what I understand of your writing, it's kind of a noir feel, like it's an urban fantasy, but not using the tropes of urban fantasy with demons and elves and wizards and all the other things that come along with urban fantasy. But I'm personally looking forward to digging into your books because as much as I love high fantasy and urban fantasy, the noir feel, the detective feel, because Elmore Leonard, even the books that Alfred Hitchcock put out, those are like real life stories. They feel like things that can actually happen. So I'm looking forward to getting into reading the Billy Lafitte. What was the other character you mentioned the other night when we were trying to get this done?
Octavia Vanderplatz, I think, who's the.
Oh yeah, no, the
that woman.
Yeah, you're right. It's the Nero Wolfe of women.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited for that because I as a younger when I was a younger person, like a decade plus ago, Nero Wolfe, I loved Nero Wolfe, just his character. And then as we were talking outside of the show, you talked about this character you're working on, and I was like, love it. This larger woman who is a Nero Wolfe. I'm like, let's go for it. Let's do this. I'm just the modern version of Nero Wolfe who wasn't 1940s or 1930s character. Yeah. Let's do this.
She, I mean, the book's out. It's called Choke on Your Lies, and you can get it on Kindle. And I've been interested in Nero Wolfe books for a long time, just because Nero Wolfe is just an unlikable character who you can't help but like.
Oh my God! I'm not gonna lie. I agree with you 100%. Nero Wolfe was this pompous, and couldn't like him, but by God, he still could solve any crime that came across his path.
If he wanted to, he was so selfish. He'd only solve the ones that interested him, and the rest of the time, the only reason he did it was to get money to pay rent, buy beer,
Yeah.
and I
And
think
make sure that
raise
is.
orchids.
Yeah, I was to say his orchids didn't
Yeah.
go bad.
But I noticed that there's a guy named Robert Goldsboro doing like modern Nero Wolves. They were like they picked up as if those guys had never aged, but they had a computer in the house, something like that. And he got away with doing that, and I just always thought that a angry female version of Nero Wolf would be interesting. And then when I wrote the book, it wasn't so much a mystery. Um, it was just kind of this sex romp where she still had, I still had the room where everybody was called to her study and she revealed what she knew. But it was really more of this just sex romp, academic novel, because I never like books about where the lead character is a novelist or a poet, even though a lot of writers, for some reason, like writing about novelists and poets as characters. I hate that. I hate it, and when I read a book and it says, the guy's a novelist, I get bored. But I decided that the narrator, the Archie Goodwin for Octavia, was going to be this guy who was an academic poet who was terrible at it, and this was her best friend, and so he narrated, this novel. So yeah, it's kind of nice to do something like that. It's kind of a tribute and the dissembling of something you like all at the same time.
Speaking of academia, you hold a day job as well.
Oh, I hold one, yes. I hold
you
one.
work you work as a professor?
Yep. I am a English professor, and I'm chair of the English department at Southwest Minnesota State University. It's a small state school in the southwest corner of Minnesota. So.
We had ML Brennan on what was it, last week? It's hard to remember anymore. The days just kind of blur together. And she's a adjunct professor as well, and I'm always interested when some of my favorite fiction authors hold jobs as professors or in some form of academia. Does your fiction ever come into play in your everyday just life, your professional life outside of as being a writer? Have you ever had that student that was like, I've read your books?
A few of them do, but not for the most part. And a few of my colleagues have read it, and I always warn them just not to. They shouldn't. And I've got a PhD in creative writing. I went to the Center for Writers at University of Southern Mississippi. I studied with the Bartholomew brothers, and the idea of genre writers going to these programs back then, it's something that you didn't do too much of, even though more people are doing it now. And so I knew I was interested in writing crime fiction back then. This was like 15 years ago, and but I learned the literary trope. So the important thing for me now is I don't care what genre you write. As a teacher, I don't care what genre you write, but you need to learn just the basics of character, plot, dialogue, setting. You need to learn how to write good sentences, and then you can apply that to any genre you want. So that's most important to me, is getting that, let's get the level of just, sentences, the level of story, get it a little more complicated, a little more complex. But most of the time the students, just to be honest, they don't read crime fiction. Crime fiction is sort of an older person's game. Everybody's reading fantasy and sci-fi and horror. Horror is the closest thing to what we do now. The young writers writing horror is the closest thing to what noir writers do. And I teach literature, I teach creative writing, I teach just regular composition, and my number one rule is be interesting. I just want them to be interesting and not go by write what you know, but write what you're interested in. So I guess it does, it plays a big part, but you have to be careful not to influence them too much and try to push your own stuff. I don't really feel comfortable doing that. I like to hold back. If they discover it on their own, fine, but I don't, push it out there in front of them all the time.
So, going through all that, who do you find the most interesting authors right now?
Oh, wow. That's a very hard question because I hate getting left off year-end lists that all my friends do on Facebook. So I'm sitting here for most of December saying, "You motherfucker, you motherfucker, you didn't like my last book, but you liked that shit. You liked that pile of shit over there."
Well, you like you said, you're talking about make your books interesting. So that's what I'm asking for. As a person who loves interesting prospects, what would you find as an interesting prospect?
I'll say, I guess the books I've been reading lately, I kind of go back and forth between, some like small noir stuff. Like I've been reading Reckoning by Rusty Barnes and Made to Break by D. Foy, and one more I can't remember. I've been reading Ben Whitmer. But then I also read Daniel Silva's spy novels. I love those. I read Philip Kerr's, wartime Nazi spy novel series. So, and people like James Elroy and George Pelecanos are the guys that first made me think I could do sort of a literary noir because they were doing something similar. So I guess those are the interesting guys.
All right. So if I said The Destroyer.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna ask because I've been reading those for like on 20 years now, like William Sapir and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if anyone knew who The Destroyer was.
Oh yeah.
My
dad had those books, and I kind of looked at those when I was a kid.
Thank you.
I remember like my parents and my grandparents all had pulp novels around. They had Mike Shane, they had Ian Fleming novels, and they had a couple of James Bond things. And I pick it up and they'd say, "No, you can't read that." And there was the moment I knew I wanted to be an adult fiction writer, adult crime writer, was when I was at the K&B drugstore, and I picked up this Perry Mason novel, and I forgot the actual name. It was The Case of like the Voluptuous Virgin or something like that. It had the word virgin in it. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, 11. I don't know. I didn't know what that meant. But I'd been reading these adult crime novels. So I took this to my mom and said, "Hey, can I buy this?" And she said, "No, you can't." I said, "Why not?" "Because it says virgin. You don't." So I had to go, of course, immediately find out what virgin meant. And one day read that fucking book, So, I don't know. So those books from the 70s, those are Executioners, Donald Hamilton's, Matt Helms, those are, and I also now just recently got into the Samurai, what was that, Black Samurai series by Mark Olden. Those are incredible.
I'm not going to lie, I have not heard of Black Samurai series.
Oh, yeah. You can go look. I guess they re-released them all on Kindle. And they were written back in the 70s, and they're just fun, crazy books, and kind of blaxploitation mixed with kung fu, which was kind of a big rage back in the 70s anyway.
Oh no, that's why I got into the Destroyer series.
Yeah.
My mom, oddly enough, my mother and father lived in Germany in the 70s. For some odd reason, they got hooked on the Destroyer series, which is this weird, if no one's ever read it, it was this weird, like, martial arts / spy series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in my house, I have, like, probably like I'm up to, like, series 120, 125. They're not great. They're really, I mean, if you say, like pulp novels, yeah, that's what they are. And I grew up on those, and anyone who grew up watching like bad movies, if you happen to see Raymond Williams' The Adventure Begins,
yeah,
that's the series that I'm talking about. So I love the fact that you got to you got to read and watch a lot of that stuff, and I've never heard of Black Samurai. So that is now the new new genre I gotta go look out for.
It's great stuff. All of that stuff, like
Oh,
70s exploitation stuff, kind of drives what I do in the books more than anything else. Just the feel of it more than anything.
which is fantastic because I grew up on. I mean, I'm a martial arts instructor, and I grew up in the late '80s, early '70s. So Bruce Lee, any Jackie Chan, blaxploitation, like Jim Kelly, kung fu fighting, anything. Like that's I love that whole genre. So like anytime anything comes across that whole area, I'm like, well, I gotta let's jump into it.
No, you'll love these. These are great.
Well, well, I'm glad you brought that into me because if no one beats Chiun, because Chiun talking about how like he's watching his shows and someone walks in and he has to kill him because his soap operas were interrupted. I was watching my soap operas and
yeah. I actually had a former student of mine bought me a book because he knew I kind of kept some of these old paperbacks from the 60s and 70s, and he bought me one from a series called The Penetrator. And it was, another action, kung fu, spy sort of thing, and they're just fantastic. I couldn't read it. I just didn't want to read it, but I just love the fact that it exists. And someone wrote a bunch of these and made money on them.
Well,
that's what I want for Lafitte. I want Lafitte to eventually have like 80 books where I can just write 4 a year,
Hey, I'll tell you what, the entire time I will be reading them like beautifully because he has that Remo Williams feel to him. Like he's like, well, what's going to happen? Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. I remember I was reading something about Donald Hamilton that said, once he started making money, because he was selling like 15 million copies of the Matt Helm books, and he bought himself a beachside house, would go outside, drink some coffee, smoke a cigar, go inside, write some Matt Helm book, then go down to the country club for the rest of the day and just goof off and drink. And I thought, that's the life I want. I want that. So, come on. I have to read a bunch of Matt Helms to learn how to do that.
No,
looks like we're getting a call in here. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hello, who's this?
Are these the ogre pricks? The OGRE pricks?
the ORC, the Oatmeal Raisin Conspiracy. Yes, this speaking.
Oh, hello, yeah.
This is the Smith. You're talking to the Smith kid, right?
Yeah, we're talking to Anthony Neal Smith right now.
Yeah,
My
Smith
name's
kid,
Red Hammond. And I have a question for Mr. Anthony Neal Smith. So who the fuck does he think he is? Just who the fuck does he think he is?
Anthony, do you know Red Hammond? 'Cause I know who Red Hammond is. Do you know who he is?
He's nothing to worry about. I think you should just end the call, change your number. Red does.
I've heard of this Mr. Red, and I'm gonna call him. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna call bullshit. Whatever, Mr. Red. Bullshit.
Yeah, is Red still there? Is he still on the line?
Red, you there?
Red, you there?
This old Smith prick. Let me tell you, this motherfucker. He says he wrote this book, Triple X Seamus.
Yeah,
I wrote that fucking book. I wrote that fucking
that.
book so hard it put me in a coma. And then I wake up and this little bastard, this little cum stain, he's saying he wrote the book. What does he have to say about that?
I think we just actually lost Anthony.
Did we?
His
Did we?
oh,
Wait,
there he
wait.
is.
He's
Nope, his
back.
connection's back.
Hold on. We didn't lose him. Anthony, do you have something to say against Mr. Hammond?
Look, he's old. You got to be nice to old guys. There's a little bit of dementia going on, I think. All I know is he thinks he wrote a book called XXX Seamus, which he wrote after he quit preaching, so he could go to California to work in the porn industry. And they told him his porn scripts were just too disgusting for porn, so he wrote a novel. So he says. All I know is that Broken River Books, who published XXX Seamus, are sending me the checks. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about this guy.
So, Mr. Hammond, do you have any like I don't know what to say. Do you have any
Hurry it up, I'm dying here.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about what Mr. Smith said?
Look, he took advantage of an old guy who was on my deathbed, sort of, and he just took advantage of it. All right? He should be paying me that money, and I don't know. He should give me his wife too. I don't know. Let's just make a deal.
I mean, with the whole porn thing. I mean, is it really a porn thing, or is it just how you felt about something?
Let me tell you this. I preached Jesus for years and years, and all it gave me was hemorrhoids. So once the internet opened up a whole new world of sexual delights, well, come on, you can't tell me. God created those bitches, all right? God created every inch of those bitches, and I wanted to write stories that made them put penises into them.
Red, I've read this. I've read XXX. I've read your book, or Anthony's book. We will get to the bottom of this eventually. But I've read.
Fuck you, British Davis, you know.
And I have to say, if you preach the word of Jesus for so long, this book has some of the most disturbing scenes that I've read in a book in a long time, especially a book that's purportedly a private investigator, like almost noir type style book. What drove you away from the Word of God? I personally, I'm an atheist. I walked away from the church a couple years ago. But what drove you so far away from the Word of God that you would write such a interesting book?
Right. Well, first, I'm impressed you could read, so that's good enough. Second, oh yeah. You know, wipe that spit off your face there, buddy. Look, have you read the Bible? I mean, for fuck's sake, have you actually read the Bible?
3 times, actually.
More than once.
I mean,
A couple times.
you know, all it's got to do is do the Song of Solomon as, you know, the way we talk now, and we've got ourselves a porn classic, right? I mean, so let's just you know, if every time the Word of God says the word he knew her, just put fuck. Just put fuck. It's the same thing. You know it's the same thing. Film it. We're done. Right? That's all I'm doing.
So basically,
remember Noah and his daughters, right? Incest. Yeah. Fuck you. It's in my book. Remember Sodom? Sodom. You know where we get the word sodomy? Yeah. I got sodomy in my book, right? And not only sodomy using popcorn oil as lube. There you go. This is a holy book, gentlemen. A holy book.
Red, you were Anthony. Are you? Is Anthony still on the line, Craig? Do we have Anthony still?
I told you to hang up on him. Jesus Christ. The man needs help. He's a very disturbed individual.
What's your relationship? Is there any connection between the two of you, that he has any claim to the saying that you're taking credit for his writing? What's going on between you and this obviously disturbed old man?
You know, you remember how...
Fuck. Let's just be honest. What the fuck?
You ever see, like, Remington Steele, where a girl invented this private investigator, and then he just showed the fuck up, right?
Yeah. No,
I think that happened. I wrote a book. I was afraid of it, so I put this fucking Red Hammond name on it because I really was just afraid of anyone ever reading it. And then Red just like started calling me, like, you know, give me some money, and I don't know. So I don't even know if he's a real person.
I don't know where this weird ass old guy just showed up.
You said you did spend some time in Mississippi. He's from the South, what I understand. That's where he used to preach. Do you think there's somebody that you had a run-in in the past, and they...
It's possible, because I was a former Pentecostal myself. So
Did you
possible I ran across this guy in one of those, you know, backwoods churches.
I was gonna say, did you happen to have a knife fight, like
Probably, yeah. But I can't remember. I saw so many hucksters and so many snake oil salesmen and all that I don't know. Maybe I ran across him once or twice, but he left an impression on me, perhaps unconsciously.
Impression by Scar. Whatever. You know, he let an impression by Scar. Let's leave it at that.
Red, what kind of proof do you have to say that Anthony did not write this book, that you wrote this book, and then you went into a coma and nobody fucking heard of you? What proof do you have that it's your book and not Anthony's?
You know what? Remember in the New Testament, you know, fuck it, I don't even want to try that one anymore. May God strike me dead if I'm lying about having written XXX Seamus. And I mean right now, this instant. And not a fucking coma this time. That was a fake. You know, that was his sense of humor. I don't necessarily say I walked away from God. I just think that he was playing a joke on us for most of it. So,
but
I am alive.
God can't strike you down in the biblical sense with lightning. As soon as churches started putting lightning rods on their steeples, that kind of threw that whole nonsense out the window. So how?
I play golf in thunderstorms, and I'm alive.
Well, you are kind of crazy, but that still does not give. Saying God is your witness is not evidence to you are the author of this book and not Anthony, who just put it into a pen name.
No,
authors do that all the time.
I will agree with Travis. There's no real. You're just saying, you know, I did this and this. You didn't really give like an example. What's your example? You could have said I did it. So what?
Do you have a first draft, a handwritten notebook full of, you know, triple X Seamus in your handwriting?
Yeah.
I mean, give us some proof.
Yeah. But you can only read it with magic glasses.
Come on, that's the same argument as God is your witness. Like, you gotta give us something. Like, I'm gonna go with an established author saying that he wrote a book that was a little bit too far out there for his career, and put it in a pen name, and now some crazy old man is coming up and saying that he wrote the book. So unless you have some substantial evidence that you wrote this book and not Anthony, I'm just going to have to go ahead and say so long now, because I've read the book and it's a good fucking book. It's disturbing on many levels. There is incest. There's a little bit of borderline fucking child abuse. It's just everything that the main character does seems to be wrong. Everything he does seems to be wrong, and it's not his fault. He's just a fuck up, and that's the way the universe designed him. But I'm just gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say the book is written well enough that it would need the artistic hand, the guided hand of an established author, not some crazy old man from the South who used to be a Pentecostal preacher. So unless you can give me some sort of evidence, I'm just gonna have to hang up and go back to talking to Anthony.
Oh, what? Sorry, you bored me to sleep there. So sorry about that.
Evidence.
What was it you wanted?
I need hard evidence that Anthony Neil Smith, an established author, is lying to me by saying he did a pen name and wrote this book because this book was disturbing. He didn't necessarily think he could publish under his own name, and not you as this author of the book. So unless you have hard evidence, not circumstantial, not magic man in the sky evidence, we need evidence. Do you have any saying that you're the true author, not Anthony? Because otherwise, I'm gonna have to go with Anthony, and I'm gonna question Anthony on the book.
I don't know when our world's gone to hell. This much. But you youngsters won't respect your elders. I know the truth. I know the real truth, and I'm going to pray to Almighty God tonight that you will also see the truth.
We want to know the truth too. But if you can't give us the truth,
Dick's withering away as we speak. You'll see. The power of the Holy Spirit.
I appreciate your prayers. I really, really do. But
fuck you. Go to hell. Really, literally, go to hell. Right?
All right, Red. I'm gonna have to just go ahead and talk to Anthony for the rest of this time, because we are interviewing Anthony right now about his books, which are established and published and out there for mass consumption. So unless you can provide us proof that Anthony's a liar, I'm just gonna have to go ahead and say so long, Red.
Look, soon enough he's gonna be in another coma anyways. Just ignore him. Either a coma or he'll start getting some Social Security checks and he'll be happy. It'll be fine. They'll feed him some pudding at the home and it's gonna all go away. So just don't worry about it.
As we come up to the end of the show here, I do, because Triple X Seamus is a book that I have read. I'm about halfway through with it. Since I'm going to believe that it's a pen name, I'm going to go ahead and ask, when you were writing it as Red Hammond, was it something that you kind of unconsciously wrote? Like what was it about that book that you just couldn't put it under your own name?
I guess actually we did try to put it out under my own name and it didn't work. I think I'm losing light here. Hold on. And and we actually sent it out to some publishers and got some nice comments on it, but nobody wanted to publish it at the time under my own name. And something about the experience of sending it out and getting rejections just made me start to be afraid of it. And not so much for the sex scenes, because, you know, there's plenty of sex all over the internet for free and legal and it's fine. It was just something about, like, the scene where he kissed the teenage girl, you know, the high school kid, and some of the, you know, the fact that there was a high school kid who ran away and was pregnant, and it's like, I'm thinking, well, you know, Lolita, you know, this was a touchy book as well, but, you know, you're telling a real story, you're not glamorizing this, it's not pornography, even though, you know, some people like Amazon happen to think it is, but Amazon, I don't think they really pay that close attention to it. They just saw a dildo on the cover and said, we think it's obscene.
And how did the banning come about? Because that's what interested me in the book,
Yeah.
because Amazon is one of those mass conglomerates that just, it has no form, it has no morals, it has no.
Oh yeah, it sells actual pornography.
It is.
I think.
How did it come about that your book get banned?
We think someone complained, and in doing so, you know, once light has been shown upon your, you know, because Amazon is just endless, you know, it's just fucking corridor after corridor, if you imagine it as a building of just stuff that's being published there. And if someone points out something and says, I think that's offensive, then yeah, maybe they'll go after it just to keep calm so that people will stop, you know, bothering them. But when David Osborne sent this in, when he, because he published it with Broken River, and he sent it in the first time, they had a little bit of problems. I mean, we do have a dildo on the cover, the great cover by Matt Revert, and it does have XXX in the title, you know, triple X is in the title. And at first they were a little concerned, and they said, we don't think we can publish this. But then he explained to them that, you know, this is a literary novel. Yes, it contains explicit sex, but a lot of novels contain explicit sex. And yes, you know, it does involve pornography, but it's part of the storyline. And they took it. And we sold this thing for over a year. It's been selling really nicely for over a year. So we think someone must have complained for them to come back around to it and then finally just ban it and not even have a dialogue with him. When he questioned them about it, they sent him form letters, and they threatened to take the entire company off of Amazon. So that's just their way of saying, look, someone bugged us, we don't want to be bugged, and if you try to bug us on the opposite way, we can obliterate you like a flea. So that was the way the banning came about, and we did find out something, because we've had it on FanBacked for a while now, this special campaign, if you still want it, where you can go get it at xxxshamus.com. That just ended, though. We found out that people, once the Kindle novel's taken off Amazon, did not want to go to another place to buy a Kindle novel. So we did not get, you know, a lot of people out there, but we would love to continue to sell the novel and get it to people, but Amazon's just not going to be part of it.
I did see, and I'm gonna probably have to contact Broken River, see if I can get a physical copy, because I haven't gotten around to actually ordering the physical copy, because I got the digital copy from the FanBack.
Yeah.
You did have some attention come to you through FanBack. I'm wondering maybe if it isn't necessarily they didn't want to buy a Kindle version, or maybe it's people like me who would much rather have a physical copy of a book than I personally hate e-readers.
Okay.
I did buy the digital copy, so I had it, because I didn't want to lose out on getting it before the FanBacker campaigns ended. But I'm wondering, because it is it is a really good book. It's disturbing, and it gets progressively so. But I'm wondering if it's not necessarily because I'd never heard of Fanback before I stumbled upon this book. And the fact that, and the only reason I stumbled on it was because it was a book that was banned from Amazon.
Yeah.
And any book that's banned for any reason, I have interest in. Because if somebody is trying to censor the book, obviously it has something interesting inside of it. So I'm wondering if it just wasn't, there wasn't enough light on the campaign, because it's a good book. Have you tried doing the? Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, I'm always going to argue about this, and the people who were behind Fanback, they're good people, they're fine. You know, I can only do so much. I can only do so much as an author. I've got a Facebook page. Red has a Twitter handle because the Fanback people wanted me to, you know, push it a little bit, but I don't really like Twitter that much. I used to have one for myself, and I really didn't find it enjoyable like I do, you know, Facebook. And when you're in a situation where you've been banned from Amazon and Amazon's not helping you, then you need a lot of publicity. And, you know, I've only got so much time with my day job and my writing and my life, and the fact that after this interview I have to clean the kitty box, you know, I mean, I've got a lot to do. I wish that I had had more help from like the people at the site, perhaps, or something. But you know, they might have their reasons or their limits too. So it is what it is. You know, it's an underground book. It's a cult book. It's never going to be a giant book. It's always going to have some people that are okay with it and some people that are not, and I accept that, and that's fine. It's just a shame that, you know, we can't reach more. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a bigger audience than it currently has. And as far as e-readers versus print versions, it's just been my experience, especially over the last, you know, 5 years or so, that the e-versions have been outselling the print versions by a phenomenal rate. People don't have the money to spend, you know, $15 on paperbacks anymore, but they'll spend $5 on an ebook relatively easily. So it's actually tough, you know. The print book market, unless you are with a bigger publisher, I just don't think you're going to get the sales unless you you know, have it as an e-version. And I wish I could say your vision is true and that people are just clamoring for the print version, and that's why. I wish, because I would get a bigger cut, but it's not the way it is. So I'm just glad it found readers that like it, and I hope we can continue to find readers that like it, and it continues to scare the living hell out of me. So, there you go.
That makes me kind of want to start my own publishing company, so I could buy.
That's why David started Broken River, I think.
Listen, I started following him on Twitter. I'm going to contact him. I want to find a way to get this book a wider audience, and hopefully we can give you a wider audience. Maybe some of our listeners have never heard of you and want to go out and read your books.
I'm assured that your listeners have never heard of me.
From my research, I have, like I said, the only reason I don't have your books yet is because I haven't got around to buying them yet. It's not a matter of I've never heard of you. All of the books that you've written as Anthony Neal Smith have pretty high regard. Like, most of your reviews are 5 stars, positive reviews. I don't really pay attention to people who do 1 star, like super negative reviews. because those are people that are just looking to bitch about something usually, and you can see the tone in their reviews. But I would say any of our readers, actually any of our listeners, I want everyone who listens to this episode, and obviously through our vast career as podcasting, this is our third year of podcasting, and we have one person that talks to us. But I want everyone who listens to this episode go buy Anthony's books. If there's one person, I absolutely adore Stephen Blackmore. I absolutely adore M.L. Brennan. Just from this interview alone, I know I'm going to absolutely adore Anthony Neil Smith's books because they're exactly what I want.
Oh, they're fantastic.
So all of our listeners, go buy one of his books. Just one. If not more, but just buy at least one. Because
not the free one.
Yeah, one that actually gives him money. Don't buy it in a used bookstore either.
Oh, I don't care about that. However they want to read it, that's, you know.
I recommend starting with medicine, Billy Lafitte series. Go through that, and go through all the warriors, and then you can jump around a little. Those are like two major ones.
But Anthony, it has been a tremendous pleasure, even with the very awkward. Oh, there's our 2-minute warning.
Yeah, my name's Tom. I don't give a fuck.
We had a very awkward interruption there towards the end. But Anthony, thank you very much for coming on. It has been one of the more memorable episodes that we've had in a long time.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
very much.
You guys are doing an amazing job. I really like what I've heard, and this was fun. And I appreciate it. I mean, you gotta understand. I mean, I kind of realize at this point in my career, I'm going to be a cult writer. I'm going to write the stuff that I think I want to read, which means it's never going to be a bestseller. So just having, you know, some people tell you every once in a while after a long day of teaching or and hearing how, you know, they didn't plagiarize that paper and cleaning my cat box, you know, just have someone, you know, say nice things about the stuff I do. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate it.
I will say personally, I love the way you write. Thank you very much for everything you did.
Thank you. And I love the way you get drunk.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Before we leave, I actually wanted to do this at the top of the show, but I always forget. Any websites or Facebook, Twitter, anything that can get your name out there further, go ahead and plug away as much as you can.
Okay, well, a magazine I started but no longer run is called Plots with Guns. It's got new ownership. Check them out, and definitely listen up. There's going to be a big resurgence on that site pretty soon. My personal website is Anthony Neil Smith, all one word, .typepad.com. And it's where you can, you know, just check in with what's going on with me. Otherwise, on Amazon, Anthony Neil Smith. That's the place I'm selling the most books. And I know a lot of people are kind of down on Amazon, but they have given me kind of a new start on my career when it was sputtering several years ago. So I am forever grateful to what they've done and with what Kindle's done for my career. So. And definitely go look at Broken River Books and Blasted Heath, my current publishers, blastedheath.com amazing stuff. So they published me, so of course, you know, what the fuck? Why not?
I was gonna say through Kindle, I've read the Bill Lafitte series. I bought Worm and All the Young Warriors off of Kindle. So that's how I read your stuff.
Well, thank you. Any way you want to read it, I like Kindle myself. So, what's wrong with my audio level? You just adjusted the living fuck out of it.
Craig in Master Control, he'll if he feels like there's something going one way or the other, he'll try to level it out. I used to be at Master Control. I'm actually very glad that I gave it up because Craig does a fucking fantastic job. He doesn't say much. Craig is like the weirdo who doesn't say a whole lot during our interviews, especially. But
I thought it was me, you know, like why are you inviting that prick on the air? Fine.
The problem is, I really didn't have much to say this interview because I didn't read any of this.
You could have said something about my hat or, you know, anything.
But he does a fantastic job. That's why we have him on. But Anthony, thank you so much once again. I know we had some issues earlier in the week, and we had to reschedule. Thank you for taking the time, not only earlier in the week, but now today to come back and talk to us. It has been 110% an absolute pleasure.
Same here. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right.
Bye, Hank.
Bye, Hank.